Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Without podcast. I have a very special guest, my good friend Rico. We've known each other for a few years. We met a few times when I was living in China and Hong Kong. Rico is also like me from Toronto, Canada. Has been based in Asia and Hong Kong and China for the past few years, and he's been building an amazing business on manufacturing sourcing. I will let him tell us all that in detail. Today, Rico is the CEO of a company called SourceFind Asia that helps businesses and entrepreneurs to get the best manufacturing and help them hold their hands every step of the way when it comes to manufacturing in China, and has been doing a lot of other awesome things. Rico, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lorenzo. Very humble what you said because you're like a big part of the reason why I moved to China. Does your audience know that story? Like,
No, not yet. You can share that if you want.
yeah. So basically, when I was coming towards the end of college, I knew that I didn't really want to work for anybody. So, you're searching for answers, and I came across like a forum was about men's health, dating, like everything,
Travel,
travel. I
entrepreneurship,
got
yeah.
really yeah, I got really interested in the travel and
Mhm.
entrepreneurship section, and I came across a thread which was basically like, I think it was like Hong Kong and mainland China business guys, something like this, and it clicked with me because I'd been to Hong Kong quite a few times, like twice, and then I'd been to mainland China with my mom, probably I want to say 3 4 years before that. So I
Mm.
clicked on it and I started reading about the stories, and I'm hearing about the lifestyle, but then I'm also hearing about the business opportunities. And then I think there was a link in the thread to their YouTube channel, which was the Elevator
True.
Life at the time.
Yeah.
And two guys from the US, 23 years old maybe at the time, and they just reminded me of like myself and my friends. You know what I mean? It was just like,
Hmm.
oh, and then you start thinking, okay, if these guys can do it, then I can do it. And I just kind of said I have nothing to lose, and ended up moving to China. And then I found out later on, because obviously on the forum we had pseudonyms, that you were the person who created that thread and was the person who had traveled and was describing his experiences. And I was like, man, that's crazy. I didn't know that. I knew you already. Like, we met
Yeah.
through Enter China, and then I found out like a year later that you were the one who created that thread. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, small world. That was fun. That was quite an experience for me as well. Going to because I've lived in many countries. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and then when I actually it was funny because before that, I actually found out about these guys in the spring of 2011. I was working for a global firm here in Canada, and then at the end of August, we get laid off the entire department, wondering what the hell I'm gonna do. And I said, okay, let me go check what's because I didn't want to go back to another corporate gig. I said, let me go back and check these guys out. So I messaged them.
Hmm.
I booked a ticket. The last day of work was Friday. Monday morning, I had my plane ticket for Hong Kong. Went there, spent a week in Hong Kong, met these guys, absolutely blown away there, and then went to Guangzhou, met them, and they showed me the things. They introduced me to people, and of course, we partied like rock stars and all that. That's a wild story for another time. I went straight from you know from the party to the airport. I had a flight at 9 a.m. in Manila to go to Manila. So I still wonder how the hell I made it that night, halfway. But
Did you party in Manila?
oh yes, oh
Of
yes,
course.
because I was supposed to fly back from Manila to Toronto. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was an incredible time. And ever since I came back, I returned from that trip. I always had in my mind that I need to return back to China. I need to return back to China. And then back in 2015, I got a job offer that I couldn't refuse as a football coach. It was my passion, my religion, and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah. Just,
S- So this podcast is not about me; it's about you, Rico. So for people who don't know you, tell us about you. What the hell is Rico?
I mean, I guess I'm 29. I run the company. I currently live in Manila. And that's why I was
Mhm.
laughing about the partying thing.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I was born in Zambia, Southern Africa,
Hmm.
and my family moved to the US when I was 10. and then eventually found ourselves in Toronto. Um, and I mean, I love Canada. Like I see myself
Hmm.
raising a family there and everything. But I was comfortable. It was a very comfortable life, and I think I was looking for not just the entrepreneurship side, but I think I was looking for the adventure, and that's a big part of the reason why I moved to
Of
Asia.
course.
So yeah, I think I mean, I've been very much focused on the business. I was very much focused on the business for the first 4 or 5 years, and I think in 2018, 2019, I kind of realized that I needed to, because a lot of people left China, a lot of people that I was
Hmm.
friends with and stuff like, and I found myself like basically just going to office, going to gym, going home, going to office like every day, even on the weekends. You know what I mean? It was just kind of, I became like a robot, and then I traveled, and I realized I had to kind of um, get my social life back, and that's what led me to Philippines, I guess.
So how would you, before going to China, I'm sure you did some research, you had your own
Yep.
pre ideas of China, and when you landed in China, was that what you expected, or was it something that completely blew your mind away, that nothing like what you had expected, that you were prepared for?
I think it blew my mind, but the thing is, it's because I went there when I was 16.
Oh,
But that
okay.
time period when I went there, I was 16. I was only in like the Guangzhou Railway area, like
Hmm.
Taojin and all that stuff. And that time, anybody that's been to Guangzhou knows that it's like small streets, like it's not exactly clean. Even though they have like, a Gucci store and whatever, like it just wasn't what I imagined my vacation being like. So I did not like China when I was 16, and I was not impressed. But then, because I was watching the videos, I was like, wait, that's Guangzhou. Like, I was watching the videos of Tim and Nick, and I was kind of seeing a different side. But of course, it's different when you arrive and you realize like they built an entire city essentially in 10 years.
Oh yeah.
The whole Liad area, Jujia
Tianhe.
Newtown,
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Tianhe, and it's like all of the buildings were new, like the roads were giant, like it was mind blowing in the aspect of like how big everything was. I remember
Hmm.
that feeling of just like, wow, like this is big. And then of course, I mean, I moved there for business, so the first thing I did is I used to take the subway. I would just pick random places and just get off,
Yeah.
and then just walk, and
Explore.
then you find just explore, yeah. But I would just like look at the map and be like, what's there? And then I'll go, and then you find it's like the market for USBs, but
Hmm.
it's just USBs, and there's thousands of stores of USBs, and they all look the same. I remember getting headaches, like literally getting headaches. Like, how would you pick which USB you're gonna buy here? You know what I mean? Eventually, I developed a system around that. Like, if I went to buy something, I would like quickly go to each shop, ask how much it is, and then I would get an average in my brain of what the cost should be, and then I would go to like three or four that I felt had given me a fair price, and then I'll pick one from there, negotiate and pick one from there. But yeah, no, it was just the biggest shock. I think was just how big it was, and then the aspect of going somewhere and just seeing thousands of stores making the same exact product, like, and there's there's thousands of places like that in the city. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
yeah, those were kind of the main things. And then I think the other thing is the work ethic and the entrepreneurial spirit of Chinese people. Like, how in the West we have this sort of stereotype about, not even a stereotype. I mean, it's statistically true that men start companies more than women, right? And there's this history around that. In China, like, everybody's an entrepreneur. Like, it's never a
They
surprise.
have to.
You have to, yeah. It's never a surprise to walk into a shop and find that the owner of the shop is a woman, or
Hmm.
you go to a factory and the a woman's running the factory. Like, those things are never surprising in China. It's just part of normal existence.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do you miss living in China?
Mm, I don't think I miss living in China, but I miss being there from time to time. I think that if I could have done what I wanted to do originally, which was to spend, let's say 6 months out of the year
Mhm.
in other places and then be 6 months in China, I think I would have been fine. I think being there for like 2, 3, 4 months out of it in a row became a little bit draining for me.
Yes.
Uh, but being there for like a month, I could do that because you go and you go to the old places that used to hang out. I still have my office there, so it's like there's a lot of things that I could do. I actually miss going to factories.
Oh
I
yes,
miss
me
I
too.
miss my
I
factory
love that.
factory visits,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, it's always like a stimulating experience because you go and
Mhm.
especially if it's a product that you don't have as much experience in.
Mhm.
It's almost like a fact finding mission. You feel like a detective in some aspects. So I miss that aspect, and I miss the food as well.
Yes, the food when you know what you eat can be really good.
Hmm.
Even I miss those.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, maybe you will laugh, but even those very basic, those Muslim shops, I love the food there.
lamian.
Oh yeah, I love
Yeah,
those.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I used to eat that. Like when I first moved, I was
Mhm.
living in this place called Li Jiao,
Oh
and
yeah.
basically it was a village, and then there was just that one area of apartments that were like Venetian
Mhm.
inspired, but really not anything special. Like I think my rent at the time was like $150 a month or something.
What?
Yeah, it was 300 total, but with a roommate,
Oh
150,
wow.
which gives you an idea of like the area and the
Oh
quality
yeah.
of the apartment. But yeah, so the Lamian place was like that was my go-to place. It was just outside of the apartment, and I'll
Yeah.
go there, and it was really inexpensive, but the food was great. It was family owned, so I kind of got to
Mm-hmm.
know the
To know
family a
them,
little bit.
yeah.
Yeah, it
You
was
can
cool.
you can you can get food from every type you want from those small places, humble places. Even one of the thing I love
Yeah.
doing there was going in this back alleys and those barbecue, especially eggplant barbecue,
Mhm.
fish barbecue, the veggies barbecue on a stick with beer. You can spend all night with friends and spend less than maybe $10 per person or whatever.
Yeah,
But you can
yeah,
also
those
go
are.
to places where you can spend like a lot of money and incredible food. So yeah, I really miss those part of China too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had a good time. China was good, man. It was good. So before we
yeah.
go
I mean,
further into,
even like being taken out by the Chinese bosses.
oh
I know
yes,
that for
I
me, I
love
always
those.
used to. I know that for me, it's like because there was a time period where I was like going to factories like every week.
Mhm.
So when you're going to factories every week, it's like I can't go out with the boss every single time. But I mean, once in a while was fun, especially if I was in a city that I wasn't familiar with. It
And
was always interesting.
did you have those special treatments like you go to a fancy dinner and then they take you to a KTV afterwards?
Yeah, but you know, they tried to offer you the KTV girls, and I was like, oh no, I'm good. So,
Exactly,
I'm all
exactly.
right.
They were fun.
Yeah.
So listen, that's amazing. Before we get further into that, what I love to do in my podcast is sure I'm interested in the professional achievement of the person, but what I'm mostly interested in is to look, so to speak, under the hood to see what's in the heart of the person. Hence the name Leaders with a Heart. And I know you're a true leader, Rico. So let me ask you first some heart-minded questions to have, because I want to have a heart-to-heart conversation with my guest. First of all, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? I think it's a good question. There's a lot of different things. I don't think it's one thing.
Mm,
I think working hard actually it's interesting because during this pandemic there were sections where I was extremely busy, and then there were sections where nothing was going on. And I always found that the if I had like weeks where I wasn't that busy, I started to feel like not fulfilled in some
mhm.
aspects. But the times when I was busy and sometimes even stressed, when I finished work at the end of the day, I always felt like a sense of accomplishment and that productivity. So I really like that. I like systems. It's kind of, I guess, a little bit nerdy, but I like systems. Like it, one of my favorite things about building a company is to systemize things and to
Mhm.
see it working and to kind of sit and figure it out and automate things. I like teaching. That's something I learned when I was teaching English in China. I didn't know that I liked teaching. I don't like teaching English necessarily, but I like to teach, which is a big part of the reason why I liked starting a podcast. I like podcasting as well. But yeah, teaching systems, working hard, and sports, I think.
Cool. What makes you smile?
What makes me small? Stand up comedy. Uh, Stand up comedy. My dog. Yeah.
Oh wow, what kind of dog is it?
Siberian Husky.
Nice, nice. Okay,
White Siberian Husky.
cool.
Also, I like to. I mean, I like to. I like to tease people as well. So that's something that makes me smile a
You're a
lot.
prankster.
Yeah, I am. I am. Like it's one of those things. Like people. Sometimes I'm like a little bit standoffish. I guess not
Mm-hmm.
standoffish, but I can come across like that because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I meet people for the first time, I'm just kind of analyzing. Like I'm not even. It has nothing to do with that person. It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like to watch people. I like to see how they behave in certain situations. But then when they get to know me, a lot of times I end up just like making fun of them, or they find out that there's a completely different side to my personality where I might like jump on a table and start dancing or whatever. You know what I mean? Like things like
Really?
that. So
Okay. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
better get do that when we meet again and Asia next time.
Yeah. If the bars are open, it'll definitely happen.
Don't worry, I'll make them open just for you, Rico. All right. So what makes you come alive?
Makes me come alive. Come alive. I think challenges makes me come alive.
Mm-hmm.
Travel,
Mm,
traveling. Like my from a very young age, I was very fortunate that my parents were in a position to take me to places. So I
mm-hmm.
mean, I went to the States. I went to the UK when I was like a little kid. I went to Hong Kong and Bangkok when I was like 7 years old. So just like those kind of experiences, going to a new place, new
Mm-hmm.
smells, new food, new
Mm-hmm.
cultures, figuring out stuff. Like when I
Mm-hmm.
was in Indonesia, I went by myself, and it's like one of those things where it reminds me of the first time I'm in China, where you're like, okay, how do if I want to do X, how do I do it? If I want to order food, how do I order it? Nobody speaks English, like
Sure.
little things like that. So yeah, I mean that I think travel is a big part of that.
Oh yes. What makes you sad and angry?
Sad and angry. Sad. I mean, there's not that many things that could make me sad, to be honest.
Wow.
I mean, I could imagine things that made me sad,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, they don't really happen. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Um, I guess can I change it to stressed?
Sure.
It's always interesting because I always talk to my friends. It's like I when I started a company, I didn't really think so much about the stress side of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be interesting. It'll be like 1 month where you make a lot of money and you're like on top of the
Mm-hmm.
world, and then another month where it's slow and then you feel down. So those are things that I learned about myself, is that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes my stress levels were connected directly to how much revenue the company was making. um Angry, even angry, I don't really get angry that much. I think I get irritated
Mm-hmm.
by people that get emotional like
Okay.
easily,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not like that. I'm usually pretty even
Mm-hmm.
keel. Even when somebody's coming at me, I usually am able to kind of like calmly handle situations and not get irritated. um but when I hang out with people on a regular basis that are up and down, up and down, up and down, I think that irritates me.
Okay. What scares you?
What scares me? When I was, this is weird to say, but when I was I've always been like an old soul. So like I remember when I was 12 years old, I was talking to my friends, and I was with my friend. I think I was talking to like my parents or somebody, and I said my biggest fear is being mediocre. And they're like,
Oh
"How?
wow,
What?" They're like, "This is a 12-year-old
that's
talking like
amazing.
this." Like,
Yeah.
um, so the mediocre side of things, that's never gonna happen because of my life experiences at this stage.
Hmm.
Um, Biggest fear right now, I guess maybe just like maybe not leaving behind the sort of legacy that I want to leave. Maybe that's it. Because
How
I
do you
mean,
want?
everything else are not like it's not they're not biggest fears. They're just little fears.
Speaking of legacy, how do you want to be remembered for, or for what do you want to be remembered? So when someone says Rico, how do you want them to remember you?
I would say multifaceted, like a Renaissance man.
Hmm.
Um, I'm somebody that doesn't like to be put in a box, right?
Mm.
Because you could like when I was a kid, I used to like to dress like hip hop, and then you get these stereotypes, and then I started wearing like suits and stuff like that. And even with the suits, initially, depending on the kind of suit I would wear it, some people thought like I was a musician. You know what I mean? It was like it changed from whatever it was to a musician. So I don't. But then going back to the thing I was talking about earlier, when people meet me for the first time, sometimes they could think, "Oh, he's a quiet dude," or he's like um, so serious. I get that a
Hmm.
lot, like because I kind of am I allowed to swear?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I kind of have a resting bitch face. Uh, and
Yeah.
it's like nothing's going on in my mind negative in that moment. I'm just like
Hmm.
working, or I'm sitting thinking, or I'm listening to somebody talk, and they think like, "Oh, he's such a serious guy." So then I like it when they see me in an environment
Hmm.
where like the other side of me comes out. Like I mentioned, maybe I start dancing, and I'm dancing on a table and whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't think he was that kind of person." I'm like, "You tried to put me into a box, right?" And then at the same time, it's
Unpredictable.
like
Mm.
yeah, I like to be unpredictable. At the same time, I could sit down with somebody and talk to them about sports, talk to them about um, random topics, fashion,
Hmm.
movies, comic books, and then we could also sit down and talk about spiritualism and
Hmm.
Buddhism and Stoicism and entrepreneurship. Like, it's like you can. I like to be a Renaissance man.
That's awesome.
I can talk to people. I can talk to women about women's fashion. I used to sell women's clothes, when I was in
Nice.
college. Yeah, it's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of fashion, I did notice from the first time we met that you have a keen sense of fashion. You always, you know, if the best, if not one of the better dressed people in the room. So kudos for that because that's important, you know.
Right now, I'm wearing my pajamas though.
Oh, that's a pajama. Oh my God. Excuse me, my lord. Sir Rico. Nah, that's fun, man. That's fun. Let me ask you some
I
fun
think the
questions.
the
Okay.
fashion the fashion thing. I think I've always liked fashion. I think even when I was a little kid, um, and then I just think it evolved over the years. Like my tastes evolved
Mhm.
based around my age or what I was doing at the time, or who I guess you could call my idols were, celebrity wise. And then I think the suits thing happened just because uh, Barney from How I Met Your Mother.
Ooh,
Barney from How I Met Your Mother.
okay.
Yeah, that was my favorite show in when I was in
Hmm.
high school, and Barney was
Okay.
my favorite character, and that was kind of like I think he shaped a lot of my personality to
Oh, wow.
to be honest. Um, but then I started selling suits. Like I was selling suits in college, and I learned how to put a suit together, and I had to buy suits for work, so I just started wearing suits, and then I started getting compliments.
Of
And
course.
then my ego came into it, and I was like, "This is how I'm dressing now for the rest of
Exactly.
my life." Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, awesome. Let me now ask you
yeah.
some fun questions. You know, when we kids growing up, everyone ask us, so Rico, whether it's your parents, your friends, your family, your relatives. So Rico, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer back then?
Um, soccer player, football player.
Really?
I think first it was businessman because my dad.
Hmm.
I used to wear suits to kindergarten. Had like a,
Really?
you know, I had a briefcase and
Yeah,
everything.
that's
My
amazing.
lunch, my lunchbox was like a briefcase, and you know,
Amazing.
and then it changed when I got older. I started playing football, and then I said football player.
Who was your favorite
Yeah.
player?
At which age depends.
Whatever, the first one, the first one.
First would have to be first would I guess first would have to be David Beckham,
Really? Wow.
and
Okay.
then yeah, it was Beckham, Van Nistelrooy,
Mm.
Cristiano Ronaldo, and then after Ronaldo left, and I never really have had a favorite player besides maybe Marcus Rashford right now.
So I noticed a trend. A trend. You seem to be a big Man U fan, eh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I admired a lot of players at different teams. I think Ronaldinho was
Mm-hmm.
a player that I watched a lot.
Oh yeah,
Um,
magician.
like yeah, I would stay up and like watch La Liga games just to watch him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the time when Robinho was at Real Madrid,
Mm-hmm.
he was very exciting as well. Um, Thierry Henry is an interesting one because I hated him until maybe his last one or two seasons at Arsenal when I started to appreciate what he does and how he plays and everything. But before that, I was like, I really
Of
hated him.
course, he's the biggest
But
rival.
yeah,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, I think yeah, I mean he was killing it. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, yeah, at that age as a kid, you're just like, I don't like this
Yeah.
person because they beat my team or whatever. But yeah, Thierry Henry is another one who I
Mm-hmm.
to this day I'll watch clips of him on
Oh
YouTube.
yeah, amazing.
And actually, there's one clip that actually gets me a little bit emotional.
Which one?
Um, it's called "Some Things Never Change."
Mm-hmm.
If you go on YouTube and type that, it's a 3 minute clip. Basically, Henri left Arsenal, went to Barcelona, went to New York FC, and then eh, um, he was older. He was much older at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
He went on loan to Arsenal
Yes.
during like the Christmas period. So you can imagine this guy is the legend of the club, but he's coming back as not the same player. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
now
Of course.
slower, he's not as strong, all that stuff. He even had like a giant beard at the time, but they
Mm-hmm.
gave him a statue outside the
Yes.
stadium. So the way the video is clipped up, it shows old clips of him when he was in his prime at Arsenal, and then him crying, giving a speech at the statue, and then him playing for Arsenal again for the first time. And there's all these like quotes and things like that, emotional music, and he comes on as a substitute and scores um, almost identical to the way he used to score. You know what I mean? It's just the way whoever edited that video is brilliant because it really gets you.
I'll
Like you
definitely
understand
check it out.
his his feelings around it and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of Manu, what do you think of the probably the greatest Man United player ever, Eric Cantona, the king?
Yeah, the king. I think I was too young to have
Mm-hmm.
actually watched him a lot. Like I maybe saw him in his last season because I really got into it in the treble winning season.
Okay, yeah,
But I mean, again, Cantona is another one of those where I go and I watch YouTube videos. I appreciate him in terms of what he accomplished and how he was as a player. I wish he because he retired at like 30. He
very
retired when
young.
he was
Yes,
still yeah.
very young. He could
He
have
retired
played
when
for
he
a
was
few
still in
years. Yeah,
his yeah, and is still in his prime, especially for that position as a player like
he retired at the
midfields.
top. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, no, I wish he had played a little bit longer so I could have seen
for
him.
sure, for sure. So let's go back to when you were growing up a kid. What was your favorite subject in school?
At first, math. I liked math first, and then hated history at the time. I think it is. I'm trying to think what else. Like it was. I think it was math for a very long time, and then English, because I used to have these competitions with the other guys in class and the girls. So we'll do like spelling bees and stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah.
or like a spelling test.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on like a run. I remember it was like I think I was like 13 at the time. I went on like a run where I was getting 100% every test, week after
Wow.
week after week after week. And it became one of those things where there was only one other person in the class who was also doing the same as me. And yeah, so I remember English was one. And then eventually, because of one teacher that I found very fascinating, history
Hmm.
became an interesting subject for me.
Yeah.
We had a teacher called Mr. Golson. And the reason why he was interesting is because his character, he was just like a teacher who was very sarcastic, extremely intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
made you ask questions. Like he
Mm-hmm.
made you ask questions about what you believe in, what you've been taught. Like he was the first person
Awesome.
in my life that made me think like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, Before we talk about your business, if you and what you're doing now, if you look at your path in your life so far, how would you describe your path as something that once you get into one path, was it straight, smooth sailing all the way, or was it like filled with twists and turns along the way, and you had to change your path along the way? So, how would you describe your path so far?
In terms of, yeah, I think no, it's definitely not smooth because
Mm-hmm.
of the amount of times I changed schools as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of countries I lived in before I was like
Mm-hmm.
before I was like 12 years old. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think I had a traditional childhood in any sense. Not that I didn't grow up comfortable. Like my parents were entrepreneurs, and
Mm-hmm.
we're never. Um, I mean, I went to like good schools and things like that, but it's just that thing where you go to a school and you make friends, and then you get pulled out. You go somewhere else. You don't like this school. Eventually, you make friends. You get pulled out. You go
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else. So that creates a little bit of interesting childhood. And then I think going to China, that was the first time in my life that I faced adversity by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and in a financial aspect of like, you know, uh, my first month in China, I almost left because I was just like, I didn't expect to have to rent an apartment. Like I was supposed to go stay in the university, and things happened,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I was running out of money, and not didn't have a job, obviously. Uh, things like that, and then to persevere and go through that and figure it out and start a business, like it was an interesting dip, and then come up.
So,
So
what helped you and the depth of that dip to keep going? Was it
I think it was
friends,
just it was
family? Was it your belief in yourself, your vision? What was it?
I think it was a fear of failure, and I wanted to prove people wrong, because when I left Canada, like a lot of people were like, "Why would you leave? Why would you go to Guangzhou? Or like, what's there?" A lot of my friends, not close friends, but just peripheral friends who just didn't understand, and even my family were, like, "Why would you leave Canada and go to China, like, to live? What's the purpose of that?" So there was a little bit of like, I need to prove people wrong, and also just personal fear of failing, I think.
What were you doing before going to China? Were you on the path to a good corporate career, or did you just finish school and wondering what to do next? At what stage were you just before going to China?
I just finished school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do. But I knew before I knew 6 months to a year before I left school that
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna leave,
Okay.
because I never saw myself working for anybody. Like, I had jobs in school, and
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like I could do more. I remember I had suggestions when I worked at RW and Co, which is when I was selling women's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And for, I guess, your audience, RW and Co would be what, like, comparable to slightly fancier H&M.
Yes.
And it's a Canadian owned company. And I remember I had some ideas about a store because I got into it. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed my coworkers. My manager was cool. So I started having ideas about marketing, like initiatives and things that we could do in the store to make it a more personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
So our store is very small, and we used to have the same customers coming in almost on a daily basis. Because it's interesting, the way our customers would shop, they would come in, never spend a lot of money, but they would buy like something that was like $20 or whatever
Mm-hmm.
every day or every couple days, and then once in a while drop 200 or whatever. And I found it strange that we have these regular customers, but we don't know their names. We don't know
Oh
anything.
yeah.
We You know what I mean? There's no the onus was on us as the staff to like make it a personal experience, but no, there was no like actual system around it within the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember making a proposal to my manager and being like, I feel like we should, especially for these clients that come in every day, I feel like we should have some sort of, I don't know, just some sort of system where we can recognize them. You know what I mean? And even for new staff, they could know who the regulars are, little things like that. And they were like, okay, we'll run it to corporate. And then I didn't hear anything back.
No, that's what happens. Yeah.
You
And
know,
what idea did you have in mind to?
I don't remember specifically because that was like 6 7 years ago. But I just remember what I started doing was I would write down the names of a client, and then I would write down some key information about them,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like where they work or something like that. And then if somebody came in and I saw the name and I saw s- like I would learn about them, and then I would give them recommendations on things that were
Mm-hmm.
not even necessarily in the store. You know what I mean? Like if I knew that your favorite coffee was a latte, and I saw that there was a special at Starbucks, whatever, I would tell them about it. Like I would sometimes I would bring in coupons or whatever and just give
Yeah.
them, or just like little personal touches, because
Mm-hmm.
you see this person every day, you're talking to them for five
Sure.
minutes at the counter, like you learn about their lives, and why not apply that into your business? And it's interesting when I think about that, because that's kind of like what like marketing is with sort of email marketing and online marketing and stuff like that. When
Mm-hmm.
you build an audience, you get to know your audience, and then you use those personal touches uh, to improve the relationship and improve the business.
That's for sure. It's all about nurturing the relationship, and the more you can connect with them, the more they can they will
Yeah.
do more and more business with you. Awesome.
Mhm.
Uh Tell us about your business. What are you doing? What are you up to?
So the main branch of the company is called SourceFind Asia. It's a manufacturing consulting company. My business partner Mike, he founded the business in technically 2009, but registered 2011. And I joined in 2015 because he'd shut down the company, and then I joined, and then we restarted. And we started off working out of our apartment. I
Mhm.
was teaching English at the time part time, so my some of my students became interns. Um, one of my
Oh
students
wow,
became our first one of my students became our first employee,
nice.
and my first client was one of my friends. It was an interesting experience, and then so we went from that to getting an office, and since then we've probably exported a little bit over $20 million worth of products globally.
Wow.
So yeah, we're a manufacturing consulting company, so we're not necessarily your um, traditional trading company.
Hmm.
Of course, we do buy and sell for clients sometimes, but most of the time we take a consulting fee as a separate fee, and then manage
Sure.
productions, sourcing, research, all that stuff.
Hmm.
The main thing that we're launching right now is it's called the SFA Digital Summit. So
Yes.
sfadigitalsummit.com. It's live right now, and it's free. And basically, what it is um, we got experts in different fields, Lorenzo also being one of them, to give presentations about specific topics around e-commerce, physical product manufacturing, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So brand building, crowdfunding, manufacturing, quality control, shipping, um, having a cause in your business if you're selling a product,
Mm-hmm.
and the e-commerce side of things, Facebook ads, everything. So yeah, it's completely free to sign up, and you get to experience that and learn from these experts. And of course, the summit itself is lead in to our manufacturing program that we're launching as well. So
Tell us more
it's the
about your
main part.
manufacturing program.
It's called the SPY method. So sourcing, production, import, and export. And basically, it's just all the. It's like if you took the SOPs of your company and then
Mm-hmm.
made them into a program that was easy for people to follow step by step. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of took those the standard operating procedures, made them into like nice short videos, with with some slides and some information. We also provide like our like contract templates and things like
Mm-hmm.
this that usually we wouldn't actually even give anybody for free. You know what I mean? So yeah, so the manufacturing program I'm also pretty excited about because I feel like that opens up a whole new world for startup startups and entrepreneurs who maybe can't afford to pay,
Mm-hmm.
or not even can afford to pay, but want to do it themselves first before they start working with a company. Um, so yeah, but I think if you guys check out the summit, you'll learn a little bit more about how the program would be, and I hope you check out the program as well.
Is the program live yet?
Program is live. Um, you could actually technically just go and buy the program if you wanted to, but I feel like doing the summit first kind of gives you a good
Mm-hmm.
foundation. I think the whole point of the program is like you want to do everything properly, so I want people to not skip steps.
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, I think going through the summit first, which is free, learning a little bit of the base stuff, and then the program really goes like deep into the manufacturing process.
Okay. And they can find
And
information on that. You said sfasummit.com?
SFA Digital
Oh, digital.
Summit.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the show notes and SFA Digital Summit.com. Okay. So what's the structure of this program? So is it like a course for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or is it comprised with not only videos but also calls, coaching calls? Do they have an option to go one-on-one with
So
people? So tell us about the
yeah,
structure of
so
it.
the structure is, we want people not to skip steps, but we kind of broke it down into OEM and ODM. So everything that
Mm-hmm.
we talk about, whether it's supplier research or um, quality control, we kind of give you a perspective of how this is done when you have a
Mm-hmm.
white label product or a product that you designed from scratch. And the structure is like four different programs. So sourcing, production, and then the import and export are all separated,
Mm-hmm.
and it all leads into the next stage. There's two different tiers. One is the CEO kit, the other one's called the founder kit. The CEO kit comes with 8 calls with myself or Mike. The founder kit comes with four calls, and also the CEO this the found sorry the CEO kit, you get 15% off on Source Asia services as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I
Awesome.
mean, we structured it like that. You get access to all the modules. You get access to even the summit, because the summit is it's free, but you only have access to it for 48 hours for each day. There's 3 days
Oh,
with the
okay.
summit. Yeah. So, but if you purchase the course or the program rather, then you still get access to the summit videos as well.
I see. Okay.
And then the plan as well is we are going to be building a community around it as well.
Hmm.
Because something I also wanted to do is I just always was trying to figure out how I would structure it, because I wouldn't want a situation where I created a group and I wasn't active. And at the same time, because of everything else that I do, I didn't want to be spread thin trying to
Hmm.
keep a group alive. So with this, it kind of works out, because we're going to create like set schedules for myself to come and jump in,
Hmm.
communicate with people, answer questions, and everybody's going to be, from the program. So, we can share information, things that we learned. And what I like about it as well is like the thing about the program is if you're manufacturing something, you can't really time it. So that's the aspect with what we're doing is like it's kind of go as you progress in your own business,
Hmm.
um, with accountability.
Mm.
Because yeah,
So,
you can't guarantee a production in a
of
certain amount of
course,
time. Yeah.
especially nowadays, yeah. So you
Yeah.
said that the content of this summit that you just held is only available for 3 days. So if someone wants to access that, and is there any way for them to do now, or is it too late?
No, they can do it now. I mean, we the videos and the presentations and the Q&As
Mm-hmm.
were pre-recorded, were
Mm-hmm.
recorded, so they can have access to it now. If they go to the website sfadigitalsummit.com, just submit your email, and
Oh, okay.
you can access the course. I
Awesome.
mean, access the summit material.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is your ideal client avatar? Who are you trying to serve?
I think for the manufacturing program,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely startups, entrepreneurs, small, like let's say first, second year businesses.
Okay.
Because what I find is when they come to us, um, it's it's interesting because usually the companies that have the least experience require the most attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then obviously they're more budget conscious. So it becomes a situation where you feel that in order to give them that attention that they need, you need to charge them more money. But I mean, they can't afford it. So for me, I always end up going above and beyond. Like with our company, we've had situations where
Mm-hmm.
a client paid us for a very specific service, and then we ended up doing so much more for them. And that's just because it's just the sort of company ethos or personality. But at the same time, when we get busy, we can't really do that. So I thought, being able to service startups, entrepreneurs, where they can still progress in a professional manner without having to necessarily um, kill their budget.
Speaking of budget, perfect segue. For someone, let's say that's brand new, a newbie, wants to transition from corporate to whatever into entrepreneurship and launch a product, what would you say is the minimum amount of capital required to successfully launch a product in 2021 and beyond?
Is it original design or is it OEM?
Give us maybe some figures for both.
Original design is tough because it's like it depends on the product.
Hmm.
This is just to give you some perspective. I'll say like something as simple. Let me see if I can pull up something. Something as simple as this. This is Matryoshka.
Okay.
The Russian dolls that
Yeah, yeah,
open up and whatever.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like if this was an original design and you change the shape and you had some specific like printing and things like that, you would think it's relatively cheap, but there's a lot of like intricate painting and there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
colors on there. It takes a
Mm-hmm.
long time to make something like that, and the shape as well, because it's made from wood. It's not easy to make certain shapes from wood, so you might end up paying with the initial designs and all that stuff. You might end up spending $20,000 on something that's simple, right?
Mm.
For OEM, I think the general consensus is it used to be 5K, like if you wanted to launch an Amazon business minimum. I think it's probably closer to 10, 15K now. Um,
Mhm.
so like, yeah, with ODM, it can be $20,000. Can also go up to like 50.
Oh yeah.
But I think you need to be prepared to spend around 20,000 at minimum if you're doing an original design,
Mhm.
unless you're just doing like clothing or something like that, something that's a little bit more basic.
Okay. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Tell us an example of the most remarkable, you know, example of transformation of help you've provided to one of your clients. The one that really stands out.
The one that really stands out. It's hard to pick.
That's a
I
good
mean,
answer. Yeah, that's a good one.
because yeah, I think of like three different situations.
Mhm.
Um, I think the one that's I guess the sexiest is.
Mhm.
Do you remember when fidget spinners were out?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we got contacted by some guy like randomly. I don't know how he got my email. He just emailed me, and he was like, "Hey, I want to have a call with you." And I remember actually I was at the Cross Border Summit at the time,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I think I was on a panel. So I was like, "Oh, I'm busy, but I will be available from this time to this time." He said, "No problem," and he said, "I'll talk to you at that time." I'm like jumping in between a panel to go talk to this guy 30 minutes, like I'm really kind of sacrificing my time. And then he didn't show up. And then I
Wow.
contacted him again. He just disappeared. He ghosted. 2 weeks later, I get an email from him saying, "Oh, sorry, whatever." He made some excuse. And then he asked me if we could look into fidget spinners. And I said, okay. So we started looking into fidget spinners the next day. So the first day he was like, "Hey, we're looking to do like 5,000 units or something like that." The next day it was 30.
30,000.
2 days later, 30,000. Yeah. 2 days later, he says 200,000. And we started thinking, like, wait, what's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
this guy, is he scamming us? Like, is he wasting our
Yeah.
time? So I told him, hey, like, we don't, the only reason why we even gave him a quote at the time is because we were already researching fidget spinners. So it wasn't like something that would take too much of our time. But when he started talking about 200,000 units, I said to him, I was like, we need to get on a call. We get
Yeah.
on a call. He's like, okay, look, I work for this guy who I'm a consultant for this guy who has an order from Walmart.
From
We
Walmart.
just did,
Wow.
and yeah, he was like, they just did 40,000 or 30,000 fidget spinners air shipped, which were bad. They were all like rusted and stuff like that. So that's why the numbers jumped like that. And then
Hmm.
they just got a PO from Walmart that was worth like a little bit over $2 million.
Wow.
Um, but he said, I need you to give me the quotes within the next 48 hours because I'm flying to China in 3 days.
Wow.
and if and if you can set up some factory visits, that would be great as well.
Sure.
Now, I don't know
Wow.
if people understand. It's one aspect to get a quote, but it's another aspect to get, like, let's say 5, 6 different quotes of that quantity, and to set up factory visits for somebody that's arriving in 3 days,
And to
right?
drop everything else you had planned beforehand. Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And during that time period, because fidget spinners had blown up, like a lot of factories just didn't have the capacity to do. And he said that the order had to be done in a week, like in 7 days.
Wow.
So a lot of factories didn't have the capacity to
Hmm.
do that.
Yeah.
And so we knew that we had to put together like 3, 4 different factories.
Sure.
When he arrived, we went to his factory, the one that was making the other one, and I very quickly assessed that that factory was not a good supplier. They were using cheap materials. This is the reason why
Hmm.
the stuff was rusting. And they had made promises they couldn't keep.
Sure.
And basically, within 48 hours, we put together a network of fidget spinner factories. Found the stainless steel bearings because I remember there was like some
Hmm.
issue with that, um, and this guy, like the factory boss, is like calling people up north, and he's importing stainless steel bearings. Put together 3 4 different factories to make that order that was worth a little bit over 2 million within 7 days. We were managing the factories, like my team was managing the factories. The guy sent over the wire transfer. Remember, we signed a contract with the factory, and midnight the wire transfer was sent. It arrived the next morning. My team came from the rest of my team came from Guangzhou, so I had 4 employees, 3 employees. One was my the manager, and then the other 2 were going between the factories, inspecting the products as they were being produced,
Mm-hmm.
inspecting the shipments as they were being loaded onto a plane. And we sent over 3 4 different shipments within that 7 days successfully. And like, it was crazy, like it was insane to
Wow. Oh yeah. I
to
can
to
imagine.
put together, yeah, to put together that many factories in that short space of time, to produce that much product, to make it successfully, not even like the product was bad quality or anything like that. We did exactly what they needed us to do, and the amount of money involved with it and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And you go from like the week 2 weeks before that doing an order of like 5,000 sneakers or something like that, to 500,000 bearings, 500 sorry, 500,000 fidget spinners for Walmart. You know what I mean? It's just but yeah. So I think that's the one that
Next level.
I don't
Yeah.
think there's I don't think there's many companies that could have done that, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. That's why I think it's special.
So, what would you say was what allowed you to pull it off?
Well, because we're one of our company values is speed and also transparency,
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't put a markup on those goods. They paid the factory
Uh,
directly. So
yeah.
it was like, if we were marking up those goods, then it becomes a situation where you have to like talk to the factory, don't tell the customer the price.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a little bit
Sneaky.
of
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
extra, yeah. And then you can't like just do things because you're worried about the customer
Mm-hmm.
finding out certain information. Or you take the customer to the wrong factory so that they don't know about the real factory. Like, so that's what I mean. I think speed and transparency really allowed us to
Mm-hmm.
do that. And then my team is we have good systems. Like I told you before,
Mm-hmm.
I like systems. So we were able to like, I stayed in Guangzhou. The factories were in Shenzhen. I was able to manage my team
Mm-hmm.
remotely while they were basically living in Shenzhen for a week. And they took our systems. We're dealing with, like, at the time, I think our project management system was Asana, and then we're creating tasks in Asana, talking in Slack, um, uploading everything to Google Drive so the client could see the inspection reports in real time. um, Working with the client on Google Drive as well, things like that. So I think the systems and speed and transparency are the reasons why we could do that.
Yes, I agree. Especially the transparency. That's huge. That's huge. That
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
That part alone. Oh yeah. Wow. Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, we if we marked up the products, we probably could have made more money. But I mean, we made a pretty decent amount of money for 7 days work.
Oh yeah. Of
I was
course.
not. I have zero regrets about
Sure.
how we did.
And I'm sure the fact that you were transparent and not adding an extra markup to them, that earned you the trust of that company. And I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if they referred more business to you as a way to thank
Well,
you.
we ended up doing smaller orders on fidget spinners with them, and
Mm-hmm.
then some other toys that they.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we ended up like doing quite a bit of business with them over the course of a
Of
year.
course, of course, of course. Yeah. That's how business is. It's all about trust and transparency. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Now, the theme of this podcast is leaders with a heart and building businesses that are more than just about building a business for the sake of money, but also to have an impact, to build a business with a cause and a purpose. Is there, what would you say is a cause that you are, Rico, most passionate about?
was it I'm most passionate about? I think I would say education.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I think I was privileged in the way I grew up, like the
Hmm.
education that I had. But I'm not even just talking about school. Like I'm talking
Hmm.
about the fact that I got to travel from a very
Hmm.
young age. That opened up my mind a lot. I think my experiences traveling from that age are a big part of the reason why moving to China I was not scary to me.
Hmm.
Like it was just yeah, I've done this before. I've done this since I was a kid.
Hmm.
So I think one of the things in terms of legacy that I've always thought about is if I could somehow put together an academy in Zambia that was maybe taking kids that have a lot of potential that come from um, families that couldn't afford to send them to private school,
Lovely.
and then not just that them having a private school education, but also having trips around the world to different countries and learning about different cultures and having those experiences, um, and then just seeing how that could positively affect the country in the future if you
Absolutely.
build up people like that. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. That's
And then in
amazing.
general, education wise, I mean, this having conversations like this, sharing knowledge about Asia, about life, things that if you grow up in a certain culture or you have certain beliefs, you don't really understand what's possible. When I show pictures of where I live in BGC, and I mean, I don't know if people can see the background, but when I show pictures of where I live in BGC, people get surprised, like, "Oh, wait, Philippines looks like that."
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Didn't expect
mean,
that. Yeah.
there are places in the Philippines that are really developed and really
Hmm.
awesome to live in. Um, and that's just not Philippines. There's in Indonesia, there's
Oh yeah. Everywhere.
Vietnam.
Hmm.
There's all these countries that you might have a perception of.
Hmm.
I like to educate people about those things. At the same time, I was like, I want to keep the Philippines as a little bit of a secret for as long
Well, the
as
cat is out of
possible.
the bag, my friend. It's already pretty well
Yeah,
known for people
and
in the know.
I've made too many videos about
It's
Philippines
not
at this stage.
mainstream yet, but
Yep.
people are starting
Well,
to.
that's
Mhm.
well, that's why I like it as well. Is like it's still even the beaches. People don't understand the quality of the beaches here
Oh yes.
and the ocean here. Like they don't understand that you can jump into your car and drive three
Yeah.
hours and be at like one of the best beaches in the world, not just in the Philippines. You
You have
know,
what, like 7,200 islands in the Philippines, something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. People don't understand. Like it's something else.
Yeah,
But
the
yep,
lifestyle is. We can do an entire, not just episode, but an entire show, entire podcast just on the
yep,
lifestyle in Asia. It's mind
yep.
blowing. When I keep listen, when I keep telling people here, like when I was living in Hong Kong for $20, you can fly to Vietnam for $50 to Bangkok or Phuket or whatever, $100
Hmm.
to Bali. They think I'm crazy. They cannot even imagine that. And when
Yep,
you mentioned earlier that you were paying like $150 for an apartment and for your place in Guangzhou, mind you, you're not balling, but still, at the same time, I
yep.
was talking with one of my cousins here the other day. He's doing very well. He actually is a welder after finishing high school instead of going to university. I told him, listen, go take a trade. He followed my advice. Now he's in 24. He's making over six figures as a welder and is renting a studio. And
Mm,
for people that know it, Young and Shepherd in Toronto, it's a nice area, but nothing fancy. A studio for
yep.
$2,500. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You know?
For 2,500 for for $1,000 less than that, he could
Hmm.
rent a 120 plus square meter condo on
Wow.
like overlooking the whole city. You know what I mean? It's
Well, in
insane.
Bali, you can have your own villa with a private swimming pool for like what, $500 a month.
Mm,
You know, in Kuala Lumpur, you
yeah,
can get an amazing condo and a brand spanking new, building with all the facilities of a five-star resort for like four, five, $600 a month. Same thing
yeah.
in Bangkok, and it's unbelievable. It's something that words cannot describe. You have to yourself experience it to believe it.
Experience it.
And,
Yeah.
and once you do it, your world will be different. You will not be able to go back to paying $2,000 just. And let me tell you just quickly another example. Last year during the pandemic, I couldn't wait to travel, but I couldn't. So I was even because we live in the suburbs of Toronto. I was even contemplating getting a condo for a month inside Toronto. So I went on
Mm.
Airbnb, one room and a shared flat with five other people, about $1,400. One room. And mind you, it's not downtown, it's like maybe uptown. But I said, you know what?
Yeah.
Screw that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna sit tight here with that 1400. I can get a baller place at anywhere in Asia. So just to give you how crazy it is. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, no, it's just it's I like blowing people's minds when it comes to that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, because they just the the misconceptions. Even I mean, I think now people understand it a little bit more, but like
Mm-hmm.
the Chinese cities, like just the scale and
Mm-hmm.
enorm the metropolis nature of those cities, it kills North America right now.
Oh yeah.
Like, not, I don't think there's any city, maybe New York, but then New York is old, right? Like, if you look at all these other places, like it's brand new and they're huge and it's amazing.
You know, the first time I was really blown away in my life, and again, I lived in 10 countries on 4 continents, was the first time I arrived, not in Hong Kong, but in Guangzhou and the new town, Zhejiang New Town. I said, holy smoke, is that China?
Yeah,
I could not believe it, you
yeah,
know? And even the airports, last time when I came here visiting family for my sister's wedding in October of 2019, I had a transit on the way in San Francisco, on the way back in Chicago. My God, the airports were completely like third world level, if not fourth world level. And the contrast, even the train station in Hangzhou was way, way, way more modern, way better. It's not even talking about the airports. It's absolutely mind blowing. No, in that case, I
yeah,
said,
and
okay.
we're talking about first tier cities in
Yeah, I'm
China,
talking
but
about San Francisco and
yep,
and, and Chicago and Dallas. I'm not
yep,
talking about
yep,
what do you call it, Knoxville, whatever.
yep, yep. But then even but then even second tier cities in China sometimes are,
Yeah.
because they're also brand new. Like the
Oh yeah.
infrastructures are sometimes better than North America.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah. That's a different. No, that's for sure. So anyone that wants to be blown away, and also to get their money to go way further to drastically upgrade the quality of living, go to Asia. Sorry, Rico, but the cat is out of the bag, my friend. Maybe stay away from the Philippines. Leave the
the only
Philippines
the
to
only
Rico.
yeah, leave the Philippines to me. The only negative thing about that is just obviously the more people come over,
Hmm.
everything becomes more expensive.
Yes.
Um, I don't know which place it was. I think it might have been Chiang Mai,
Oh yeah.
um, where I was talking to one of my friends who lived in Chiang Mai before everybody started going to Chiang Mai,
Hmm.
like let's say 7 years ago or something like that. And he was like, "Yeah, the places that I used to rent, which were a house, for example, brand new house, 2 bedroom, all this stuff, $300 a month, $250 a month, 300 with a maid, you know, ridiculous prices." He said now those places are like 600. It's like gone up twice, just because there's a lot of expats there. It's like, so that's the
Even
only.
600 is such a
It's still
much
cheap. It's
better
still
deal. Yeah.
cheap, but it's
Oh
not
yeah.
going down. It's
Oh
just
no.
gonna
Oh no.
continue going up, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
only that's the only negative side of it. But enjoy it while it lasts. Then
Absolutely. Let me ask you now to wrap up some fun questions. I know you have a very successful podcast. Let's say today for your podcast, you have the most special guest ever, yourself. What would be the first question you would ask yourself? And I don't want you to think too much. What is the first question that comes to your mind that you want to ask yourself on your podcast?
that I want to ask myself.
Yeah, that you always
I mean,
wanted to. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think I have one, or to be honest, but I think
one that comes to mind spontaneously.
the question that I always ask, one of the questions I always ask at the end of podcast is, what's the smallest thing you've done that's brought you the largest results?
Oh, I love that. Mm. And what do
Um,
you
but
answer?
I usually ask it business wise. So I think, and I've been asked the same question business wise. So if I was to say
Mhm.
from a personal perspective, I think it was consciously deciding to make friends with people that had similar ambition and goals to me. So
Mhm.
what I mean by that
That's
is
important.
what I mean by that is like you make friends in life most of the time from when you're a kid out of proximity. You're not choosing your friends.
Mhm.
You go to school, you're in class with this person, and you become friends. Your parents are friends. They put you guys together. You become friends. But sometimes like you get to an age where your ambitions, your goals, the things that you guys dream about are different, and the life path is different.
Sure.
So I remember I was hanging out in college with like my roommate and some of my classmates and stuff like that, and it was cool. Like we had fun together. But when I started talking about like um, business and entrepreneurship and my ambitions in terms of that, like they're just kind of looking at me like, "Who do you think you are?" You know. And I was like, "No, but I mean, I want to start a company. I want to do this. I want to travel. I want to do this and that." And it was not encouragement. Uh,
Yeah.
so at some stage, I don't remember which book I read, but I
For a
read a
work
book
week.
that I know it was before the 4 Hour work week. Actually, one of my new friends introduced me to 4 Hour work week, but it was just
Wow.
some book that I read that was just kind of talking about how you are the average of the five people that you spend the most amount of time with.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's ironic because your parents say that to you as a kid, like, you should have good friends around you and all that stuff. But yeah, I just decided one day, I was like, I'm going to start looking for people that also want to do the same things as me, specifically in the business, travel, ambition,
Mhm.
self improvement part of life.
Mhm.
And when I started doing that, I started hanging out less with those guys, started hanging out with other guys. And these guys were, encouraging me. When I wanted to move to China, they encouraged me. They helped me. Like they did things that they helped me learn even about
Of
certain
course.
things that helped me when I was in China. So I think,
Mhm.
and then up to now, we're still friends. We're all um, aligned in our sort of paths. So I think, yeah, making sure that you consciously, because I think people don't understand, like you can actually decide to stop hanging out with people that have a negative influence in your life and find people that have a positive influence in your life.
Love that. And just before that, you mentioned something that I found very powerful. I even noted it. You said, "What's
Yeah,
the smallest thing you've done that has had the biggest impact in your life?" What's your answer?
yeah. That was it. That was the
Oh,
answer in
okay.
terms of personal life. Yeah, for sure.
That's
Um,
true. Mhm.
yeah, for sure. And also, just I want to add to that. Some people might say, well, I don't know. I'm in a small town, and there aren't that many people that have the same ambitions as me.
Mhm.
My advice, my advice in that situation would be start to listen to podcasts and consume content by
Absolutely.
people that are like that, because I was doing that as well when I first moved to China, because I was teaching English, and I wasn't really hanging out with a lot of entrepreneurs and things like that, so I had to just
Mhm.
kind of jump into the podcast world and really
Mhm.
really just like consume content from people that were talking about things that I was thinking about, right? Until you start
Absolutely.
to meet people like that in real life as well.
Absolutely. No, podcasting is huge because it builds you.
Yep.
It gives you a voice. It gives you connection to people that you could not even imagine. Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Um, let me see. What's your superpower? We all have a superpower. What's Rico's superpower? Dancing on tables?
Yeah, probably dancing on tables. Dancing on tables. I don't know what's my superpower. Uh, I mean, I don't think about it like there's one. I think that there's multiple. It might sound a little bit
Mhm.
cocky, but um,
What would be the one?
I think that I'm. Sorry, pick one.
What would be the
I
one?
th-
Yeah.
I think I'm very good at reading people.
Okay.
I think that it's almost to a stage where I can almost predict sometimes people's behavior. And then
Mm.
when I was younger, and this is more so when I was younger and single, you end up using it in a way to like you know get girls and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also translated. It's translated into so many aspects of my life,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm mostly correct. Like most of the time, I'm really really correct. I can sort of analyze somebody, kind of guess what kind of person they are, or guess how they would react in certain situations, or react to something, and then when it happens, it kind of it's not a surprise to me.
Is that a superpower that you were born with, or something that you had to hone through the years and
I think I was born with it because I was always like, even as a kid, I was always like the therapist of everyone. I never understood like why does everybody like to open up to me? Like it was always one of those things. Like
uh-huh.
even adults. I remember I was 17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
18. I was in college, and I remember meeting um, some like family friends or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and there was random older guy there, and we just started talking about random stuff. He was asking me about college, and then next thing you know, he's like telling me about his life and divorces and all this stuff, like stuff that I just felt like, is this the kind of stuff you would talk to an 18-year-old about? Like, it
Exactly.
seems a little bit more grown than I need to hear.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that used to happen to me a lot. Like, I'll have older people open up to me, and people my age open up to me or ask me for my perspective on things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I've always, maybe and people, I think people can sense it. I think I've always just been able to read people really well.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
We all have
and of course I'm
yeah.
interested in psychology, so I did
Mm.
end up like reading a lot of books about psychology and sociology and all that stuff. So there's a natural skill there, but then
Mm-hmm.
there's some small
Yeah,
foundation as well.
absolutely. We all have a purpose, a mission for being here in this life. What would you say is your mission in this life?
mm, my mission in this life,
Your purpose of being here in this time and in this period?
maybe it's to educate people. I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe, yeah, I think educate people, not just educate in that way, but I just mean about everything. um
Okay.
this is, I don't know, maybe a little bit personal, but I'll say I
Mm-hmm.
my last two girlfriends, the relationships. Well, no, the last one didn't end bad. It just kind of ended because of COVID, actually, because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go back to China, and we didn't see each
Mm-hmm.
other for such a long time. But the previous girlfriend ended kind of bad in the sense of just arguing and things like this. And then my other girlfriend, we didn't end bad, but like there was definitely some conflict from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened is with both of those girls, let's say a year later or 6 months later, they would come back to me and say, I understand what you were trying to tell me. Like at the time, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
receive the information the way that I should have. And what I'm saying is like it'll be things like, don't be so negative. I mean, I say this a lot actually to people, like, don't be so negative. Like
Yes, that's
it's not as
important.
bad as you
Very.
think it is.
Mm-hmm.
um or be like, don't think about yourself like that. Like I would say things like that. um or I would, try to help them build up their confidence,
Mm-hmm.
or just in general, small, even other things. Like I remember one time my ex-girlfriend was talking about how she wanted to be a movie star,
Mm, wow.
except she didn't live in Hollywood. This is my ex in China. And so I asked her, I was like, so what's your kind of like your plan? So she's like, well, eventually I want to go to Shanghai, and then when I go to Shanghai, I'm going to start like taking acting classes and things like that, and then eventually I'm going to go to Hollywood. But I was like, why don't you just start doing something like right now?
Exactly. I was about to say it. Yeah.
Well, and she was like, well, Guangzhou is not like Shanghai. And I was like, well, but I mean, you can start now on a small scale and, you know,
Yeah.
find people that have similar interests here and start making short movies or whatever, just to practice, like, even, just
Exactly.
kind of start to learn. Why wait until you're in Shanghai? And I remember that was a little bit of like, uh don't tell me what to do kind of conversation.
The
But
ego.
then that was
Yes.
another, yeah. But then that was another one of those things where later on she was like, "Oh, I understand what you're saying. Is like I can start
Mm,
small, even if this is not like the end goal. You need to start somewhere, and then eventually you go to those places." So like, I just think I've had a lot of those kind of situations in life where I taught somebody something, consciously or unconsciously.
absolutely. And just to add to that, it's so true. We can all start at a small level, and even if at the beginning, like I'm just starting my podcast less than a year,
Yeah.
even if sometimes I feel that not many people are watching or listening, but you know what? Whatever doesn't matter. God and the universe are always watching you, and when the right times comes, it will bring the right people at your, in your path in front of you. And I'm blown away, Rico. I'm not kidding. I have been approached recently by some absolutely incredible people of the highest level. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna say anything else live, but I can tell you after. But some of them are multiple New York Times bestseller. Some of them work with probably one of the 0.001% in the world. Some of the wealthiest people in the world. They've approached me, or I've been connected with them through people I interviewed. It's the point
Mhm.
is, it's all about put yourself out there. If you're doing something with a good intention and a good heart, even though nobody else might be watching in the beginning, the universe is watching, God is watching, and He's gonna bring you into the attention and the orbit of the people that matters. They will. Oh, okay, it's great. I will say, like a few days ago, I just woke up and I checked my phone. And I saw that a few of my posts on Instagram were liked by someone who I wasn't following before, and he happens to be a multiple New York Times bestseller. He was part of the original The Secret movie, one of the founders, one of the main characters, Dr. John
Mm.
Assaraf. I don't know if you, I'm sure, have you heard of him? A mega, mega, mega profile. I wasn't following that guy, and on Instagram there must be currently like what, almost 3 billion people.
Mhm.
I'm still speechless as how he found about me, how he just managed. And again, I'm not boasting about having my post liked by someone like that. That's very shallow. It's just that the point is, someone of that magnitude noticed me, or
Mhm.
somehow I was, brought to his attention. That's a lesson I want to focus on. It's even though you feel that no one is watching you or whatever, keep doing at a small level. Keep putting yourself out there. And if you're doing, something good, you're doing good with a good intention and with pure intentions, people will start taking notice. And all it takes, I hate to use the catchy sentence from ClickFunnels. You're just one funnel away. You're just one contact away. You're just one connection away. So yeah, that I love that. That's amazing. Listen, Rico, we can talk for hours, and actually we've been talking
Well,
for
Lorenzo,
over
you're
two
just
hours now.
one dance away on the table.
Oh, that's for you, my friend. That's for you. We'll save that for Manila as soon as I'm back, because I miss
Some
Manila.
somebody will notice me on the table dancing.
Who was that? Yeah,
No, no.
no, no. We will stream live it on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. You will become a superstar. You're already a superstar. But let me ask you one last question. Let's say that you were to become the president, not of Canada or whatever, but of the entire planet Earth. What is the first thing you would do to make this world a better place?
To make this world a better place. I
Yes.
mean, I think so. Like, that's a that's a weird one because it feels like a Miss America type of or Miss World type of answer. Uh, I mean, I don't see why anybody should be hungry. Like, there is enough money in
I
this
agree.
world and resources that everybody can be fed. So that would be one of the first things. It's just that obviously a lot of people like to hoard their nuts and not share. So, but I think that would be one of the first things I would address.
Absolutely, I agree.
And then of course education and shelter. But yeah,
It all starts with
hun-
education. I totally agree with you. I totally agree.
yeah,
Um, as I said, listen, we can talk for hours. You're an incredible person, a great friend of mine, and also a true leader with a heart and a light and soul. I can see that. On top of being probably the best table dancer in all of Asia, probably. We can make a competition of that. I'll let that for you because you're good at
it's all of
organizing events. But
Eurasia.
exactly.
Yep.
So if someone wants to reach out to you, Rico, what's the best way to do so?
I think right now it would be to go to the summit, because I'm heavily involved with that
Mm-hmm,
savadigitalsummit.com. You know, there's a contact us page there.
mm-hmm.
I'm actually like I read every email, you know,
Okay.
because we're early stage right now, so I'm really
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to everything that's going on. If you respond to an email that you get from the summit, it goes to me, as well as my business partner. So that's the best way to contact me.
Awesome. Thank you very
Yep.
much, Rico. Listen, it's been an absolute honor having you on. Always good to catch up with you. Keep doing good in the world, and we'll catch up with you next time I'm in your neck of the wood. I can't wait to be there. I miss that area. So
Yep.
I salute you. You're a
Also,
true leader with
also
a heart.
just also just to add, I think one more thing would be our Instagram at
Okay.
sourcewinasia.com. I mean at sourcewinasia. That would be another thing.
Okay. Source find Asia. Okay. I'll add that. Okay. Sounds awesome, my friend. I salute you. Have a wonderful
All
day.
right.
Even if for you it's evening, it's past midnight.
Yep.
We'll stay in touch
All right,
and
man.
have a wonder.
Cheers.
Take care, brother.
Thanks for having me on, Lorenzo. Cheers.
For sure. Cheers.